of course, we're gonna have a super good fight with Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane, and I think this is probably the biggest heavyweight fight in UFC history. Like, this fight is just, it's so massive, especially with the star that Ngannou has become, and all of his popularity from, of course, knocking out Stipe and just the monster he is pretty much. And now with Gane, the rising star, who's so talented and so gifted, so technically advanced compared to so many other heavyweights. His footwork's amazing, and this is it's truly going to be an amazing fight, especially with their history
Yeah,
and everything. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. So, what do you think
yeah, they
on the
both trained at
fight?
the MMA factory in France, but after Francis' loss to Stipe Miocic, he found a new team, found new training, and yeah, since then they haven't really had a falling out. But with that team, Francis kind of had a falling out, so that's why that viral clip that went of Francis kind of passing by and ghosting Ciryl kind of went viral. But Francis said it was more so of Gane's team. So they kind of had a falling out. They have a bit of history there, but they were former training partners and they have a lot of respect. They know how each other kind of fight, how they move, and it's going to be super interesting. Francis Ngannou, of course, on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC right now, and yeah, he's huge wins. He has a very solid resume right now in the UFC, and Ciryl Gane himself 10-0, and he's literally never lost a fight in anything. He went undefeated in Muay Thai, and he's only been competing in combat sports for 6 years, which is
Yeah, the
unreal to
guy
think
is so
about. He's a
talented.
crazy athlete. Yep, 245 pounds of pure athleticism, and he's young. He's only 31 years old, and he's only been doing it for 6 years, which is pretty crazy. He could have been a football player, could have been a basketball player, but he ended up doing other things. So yeah, I mean that's crazy how he's so new to combat sports, but he's already become such a big name and such a big talent, taking over the UFC in the heavyweight division, becoming the interim champion in just 10 fights in MMA and 7 fights in the UFC.
Yeah, and Ghana has become such a popular name now, especially of heavyweights, because of just his pure skill and just how different he is from all other kind of heavyweights that have been in the UFC from the past. This guy's truly kind of the future of heavyweights in the UFC. How he's so technical and he's
Creative.
just his skill set is just
Yeah.
fantastic. Just a great fighter, and we've seen so many powerful punchers like come and go, but this guy, you could tell how different he is compared to the rest of the lot, and that's why he's at the top now. And we're gonna see if he's able to get past Ngannou and become the undisputed heavyweight champ. But Ngannou's gonna be a tough challenge for him to get past, but he definitely has the skill set to beat anyone, especially at the division.
Yeah, Ngannou has some of the craziest power we've ever seen, especially in the UFC. He has the highest recorded punch known to man right now. So, that's crazy. He's been knocking out everybody left and right. And obviously, Gon is so talented. He's so creative with his striking and such elusive footwork, great movement. And it's like you never see this with heavyweights because they're usually more brawlers because any punch can really knock you out. But with Gon, it's more of that hit and knock a hit, which is something that's really refreshing to see in the heavyweight division, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can take care of Francis because his last win against Derek Lewis was a very dominant fashion, and he stopped him within 3 rounds, which a lot of people definitely did not have, and yeah, that was a crazy victory, and he really outclassed him. He just made him look easy, which is crazy to think. And it's crazy that Francis also lost to Derek Lewis in the past, of course, but it's still crazy to believe. But obviously Francis has some crazy wins over guys like Junior Dos Santos, Stipe Miocic, Alistair Overeem, Cain Velasquez, these kind of guys that are so talented in the heavyweight division and such legends. And Francis taking care of them. But it's going to be interesting to see how this fight may go if Francis could catch Gon with a huge shot like he's done for his last so many opponents in the UFC, or if Gon can really keep up what he's been going at, where he's not getting hit. He's kind of a switch stancer. He's elusive. He's moving. He's kind of kind of that crazy style that is super cool to see in the UFC. We can see if he can keep that up against Francis, or maybe Francis will put him through some adversity. Who knows?
Yeah, and with Gon, it's the thing that's so fascinating about him is that he's only been competing in combat sports for 6 years. And like the fact that he's gone so far in such a short amount of time, and the fact that he's developed these skills in this little of time, and these are skills that no one really else has in the heavyweight division, and it's just crazy. The guy can move. He's so
I don't
light.
think he
He
even
can move
lost a
like a
round
middleweight.
before.
Yeah, he's never really. Yeah, he's never
That's
lost in any
crazy.
competition. He's a freak specimen, and same with Ngannou. The guy, he's a monster. This guy gets first round knockouts like it's nothing. This
Yeah,
guy, he's
back to
putting people
back,
to
back to
sleep
back.
just for fun.
Yeah,
So that's why this matchup is just, it's such a good matchup. Like you have these two guys who are fairly new to the sport, because even Ngannou hasn't been training for that long. Obviously,
yeah,
had a very tough background, being homeless for part of his life and coming to France, and had to try to develop his MMA skills in a tough way. And then the fact that they both got in so far and they're now both competing from being in the same place, being the MMA factory training. It's super cool to see their history and how that goes into their fight and their matchup.
yeah. It's super cool, and yeah, like you said, Ngannou didn't have an easy upbringing. He grew up in poverty. He's been to prison. He's had a tough life. So, to see where he's at now as the heavyweight champion is very cool to see. He started training MMA only like 8 years ago in 2013. So it's not that much time for a guy to be competing in this sport. Especially because a lot of these guys have been competing when they were much younger, compared to both these guys, who Cyril's only started when he was 26, and Francis when he was 26 probably as well. So, or close to that at least. So, I mean, it's crazy to see how far these guys are getting in the sport already, and yeah, they're both such beasts, and it's gonna be a great matchup. We're gonna see if Francis can do what he has to do, or if Gon could take it, because this interim title was created because Francis was unable to fight Derek Lewis during during the time that Ciryl Gane did. So yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a great fight. It's gonna be crazy. We're gonna see how they match up, how Gon's movement and style will fit against Ngannou's kind of brute force approach.
Yeah. Something also I find really interesting is that the fact that Ngannou, even though he's like he's not that relatively that young, like he's 35 years old, which in combat sports is pretty old, but he's so fresh in the sport because of how close he started fighting. So it's not like he has a lot of mileage on him. And of course, same for Ciryl Gane. And bringing up the Francis not being able to fight Derek Lewis, it was a huge controversy, and wondering of all the fans why the UFC would make it an interim bout for Derek Lewis and Ciryl Gane to fight for, when Francis Ngannou said he was ready. But I think it was mostly because they weren't able to reach a contract agreement. A lot of messy stuff there, but at least now we're getting, in my opinion, for sure, better matchup than if it was just to be Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, because we know how that last fight went. Not the
Yeah,
not the greatest fight, to say the
and
least.
and like you said, Francis is not that new to in the sport, but he's constantly improving with every fight. He's learning from his previous fights. His loss against Stipe Miocic, where he kind of gassed out, and he didn't seem to have the best game plan going in there against Stipe. Stipe, he did what he had to do, and the rematch came, and Francis really put it on him and stopped him emphatically. So
Yeah.
that was a great performance by Francis, and really shows his improvement.
And you can also see the like rapid improvement also in his fight IQ, as like we were saying, how or his gameplay, he didn't have a full on game plan, and it was kind of throwing a lot of punches and like gassing out fast, and also his wrestling wasn't the greatest. And you can just see, even though how short his fights from the first Stipe fight have been, versus Rosenstrike versus Cain Velasquez, how he's knocked all these guys out in the first round, he's still been training, and you can just see, even though he hasn't had to really display his wrestling against any of those guys, he's been improving and improving and improving throughout camps and throughout training. And now we saw that, of course, in the Stipe Miocic 2 fight, where he was able to defend the takedown and got a takedown of his own, was raining huge stops on Miocic, and of course exploding on him, dropping him once with that kind of like explosion of a jab, and then of course knocking him out cold with that short left hook. it's just you can see the rapid improvement.
Yeah, and all the hype got turned all the way to Francis Ngannou, especially because all his last fights are just knockout, 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 and he's become such a big star. And he has everything. He has the charisma, he has the personality. Everyone loves the interviews that he has, and he has everything really going for him. And he's become such a big name in the UFC. And the same is happening with Ciryl Gane. It's just an upward trajectory for both of them. And this fight's really going to tell a lot. And this is really the future of the heavyweight division is in the hands of these two. So we're gonna see how this plays out.
Yeah, and we could see a possible long kind of rivalry potentially, like with maybe a full on trilogy, or who knows, we could have a full on back and forth between the twos, because that's just how they're at the top of the division. And you could definitely see both of them being champions at the same time, since both of them are so skilled and so talented in their own ways and their own skill sets.